we started that group like month after, because I know Holly for some time now, and we were like, should we make a group with the guys that are like competitive? And we made it. And first it was like all nice, everybody's sharing their scores, there's no any trash talking and stuff like that. And now when we are like few months in, the group is getting like there is
you
there
and
is some
Holly
trash
on
talking.
on the open announcement was great when you said you did have to work out. Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. We have the full Goon Squad in the house, plus a very special guest. Before we get started, if you are joining us for the first normal podcast, I'll call it, quote unquote, because we had so many new listeners during the open and you know, going to be going into quarterfinals and everything. This is sort of one side of what our podcast looks like. We sit down and talk shop as coaches and really dig into the nitty gritty of the sport itself. And then maybe even more importantly, we have guests on that are, you know, sort of in the trenches with you guys, with all the listeners out there that are more on the athlete side than the coach side. And with that, we have a special guest, Luka Djukic. Luka, did I say your last name right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It's
Chandler
a lot
Smith
better than
actually told me how to say your last name.
Yes, exactly. When we were at the games, he was like, how should I pronounce your last name? And Lazar dropped into the conversation. He said, you should combine juice and kitchen together. So it's Djukic. So
Djukic.
yeah, you said it pretty good. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
So one of the major benefits of our job over the last decade has been the opportunity to travel the world. You know, not just doing camps in the United States, but doing camps abroad. And one of the things that's really struck us, you know, as coaches and owners of Misfit Athletics, is the effect a culture has on just the culture of a country, of a heritage, of a lineage, has on an athlete. And an example, a really strong example, is, you know, the attitude and the work ethic that we see over in Iceland. And I wanted to start the interview by asking you if you feel like some of your attributes are connected to growing up in Serbia, and maybe tell us a little bit about what that's like. But I've definitely found that you have a unique attitude, and I'd love to know where that comes from.
Yeah, I think as a country we are really competitive, and we were always really good in sports. Even though we are a really small country with only 6 million of people living in our country, we still made some pretty decent results in most of the sports. Even though if it's Olympic sports or not, usually our country was performing really well in most of the sports. And I think that the whole country has that like hard work attitude when we compete in sports. So I think that, yeah, I think I can say that is coming from my Serbian heritage for sure.
I basically want to fill in the gap a little bit. So I know that at one point you were sort of into the competitive, I think it would be called football, where you're from. We call it soccer.
Football, soccer.
I'd love to hear some sort of, we're big into superheroes here in America. Part of just something about your origin story from, you know, growing up as a kid in Serbia to starting to get into athletics.
Yeah, so basically my first sport when I was a little was judo. I think that every kid that starts sports in Serbia starts with judo. I don't know, like parents push their kids there because it's good for discipline. It's a good sport to develop your skills as a kid. And then after that, my first sport, like my first real sport, when I was, I think, 7 years old, I started playing soccer. And since then, basically since I started, my only dream was to become a professional soccer player. and I played soccer for 10 years, even more, I think 11. And then I was pretty good at it. And when I was in my 14th and 15, when I was 14 and 15 years old, I started playing a little bit more serious. I was getting into, as we call it here, first team, like started playing already with the seniors. And I had pretty big injury on one of my games. I broke my leg. I broke a fibula bone together with my ankle, and it was pretty bad rupture. So it took some time to heal. And Lazar was at that time at the work and travel program. We have that here for a really good students. They go to United States and they work and study at the same time. So he was there. He was at the United States working as a lifeguard. And he was water polo player before, and he just stopped playing water polo, and he was looking for something new to try. And as CrossFit is really popular in the United States, he started doing CrossFit. And while I was at home, I was basically lying in bed for 3 months. I couldn't move. My leg was like, I don't know how you call it, like when you can't move your leg.
Cast it up, yeah.
And Yes, exactly. And I gained a lot of kilos. Like I gained 5 kilos. That would be 11 pounds. And I was looking for something to get back into shape before I start playing soccer again. And Lazar just came back from United States, and he was looking to start doing CrossFit a little bit more serious. And he was like, you should just start CrossFit. You will lose weight and get back into shape really quickly. And that's how the whole like CrossFit story started for me. I started doing CrossFit on the side of my soccer thing, just trying to get back into shape, and I just fell in love with it. And since then, it was everything that I think and do in my day.
So it's like 5 years ago, roughly, when you're like 18 or so when you started?
Yes, it was end of 2015, beginning of 2016.
Okay.
And what was that like for you, just going from using it as essentially a way to do conditioning for soccer? What was it like for you to like the transition into getting more into it and eventually being sucked into CrossFit as a whole?
Yeah, so first for me, it was just like first 1.5 years, it was just doing kettlebell swings, burpees, wall balls, box jumps, rowing. Like there was no barbell involved. I was just doing conditioning to get back into shape, and I was using some stuff that I thought that can help me with my soccer and getting better conditioning. And then like few local competitions started happening here in Serbia. I think that the time that I started CrossFit is the time that CrossFit started to be a little bit more serious in Serbia. So I was following growth in the sport in our country. That's how I also developed. So first few years like year and a half was just about doing basically conditioning stuff to get myself better at soccer.
Do you think that?
And then,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, you go.
Do you think that had a? I suspect you were in pretty good, probably like aerobic condition, having played soccer. But that's something that we talk with athletes a lot, all the time about. Is that a lot of athletes think that they need to get stronger, they need to get better at gymnastics, and that while that might be true, the foundation for the sport is the conditioning. Do you think that helped kind of project or propel you forward in the sport, or do you think you already kind of had that foundation with soccer and the CrossFit kind of just brought you back up to what your capacity already was?
I thought when I started CrossFit, I saw Lazar was doing it for some time, and I always thought of myself like somebody who is amazing at conditioning. And my first CrossFit workout that I did was 10-minute AMRAP of 5 burpees, 10 push-ups, and 15 air squats. And I stopped after 3 rounds. And I was like, how can this be possible? I thought that I'm so good at conditioning, like I couldn't breathe. So yeah, I think that soccer played some role in later when because I already have some aerobic base, but I still think that I had a long way to go in both directions, both conditioning and weightlifting, or or gymnastics.
So how did you feel after stopping for 3 rounds? Were you like fired up that you weren't very good, or you're like, fuck, I should find something else to do. This sucks.
No, actually, I had lots of score to beat, and I was like, I will beat that easily. Like, I don't know, it was like maybe around every minute 15. And now when you look at it, it's pretty easy. And at that time, I was a little bit confused. How can it be possible that I am this tired after only 3 rounds? There was not like 50 reps combined. So when I saw that I'm not that good, it like, for me, it was like, maybe I should try to dive into this a little bit more.
When you and I talked for the first time, I believe it was September of this past year, and one of the things that you said was that you had actually followed the blog, you had followed Misfit prior to making a change, and then your 2021 season. When did you find our stuff, and just sort of what was that like for you the first time around?
Yes, for me, I'm really huge. I was really, and I'm still a huge fan of the sport. I'm following all of the athletes. I knew before, when I wasn't really that competitive, I knew all the guys that are going to regionals in all continents, like North America, Europe, and I was really following what everybody was doing in my like first years of serious like training or competing. And basically I was following what all the programs are doing, and I was looking for where should I get stuck in, because I was doing just what I see a cool workout on Instagram, and I will do it. And then in 2019, I went to my first sanctional event. It was Norwegian Crossfit Championship, and I placed, I think from 26 athletes, I placed, because it was pretty small field at that one, I placed I think 19. So it was pretty bad placement to compare to what I was expecting. And then because I was already doing, so I think at that time, I mean, we are still doing it now on Misfit Athletics. You have every day a workout basically that is a main, like main part of the plan for the day. And every time I was doing, like for some time I was doing that one piece as part of my training. And I was like, I really like this program. I was following what athletes that were doing Misfit Athletics at the time were doing, how they were stacking up at regionals and at the game, some of them. So I was like, I really like the plan. I really like how the workouts, because at that time it was most of the stuff that I'm not good at. So I'm like, after the Norwegian CrossFit Championship, I decided that I will start doing Misfit Athletics, and I was doing it for, I think it was for half of a year. It was 6 months, and then I had an opportunity to work with a coach like in person. So I stopped to shift my focus a little bit to weightlifting technique and stuff like that. And yeah, then after the games, I decided that I want to see if maybe you guys would be interested in having me on board, and that's how it started.
So we definitely have to cover 2021. Very big year for you. Take us through the whole thing. You know, whether it went according to plan, it was surprising. Like, give us the whole breakdown of your 2021 season.
Yeah, so for me, it was a roller coaster of the season. Not a lot of people know that story with how everything panned out during the whole year. After that Norwegian CrossFit Championship, as I said, that's basically when, at the end of that year, like beginning of 2020, right, is when COVID started. And there was no competitions in sight. 2020 Open was actually held in 2019. If I'm correct, right?
Yeah, we had two opens in 2019.
Yes. And then for whole 2020, there was no real test for me. I didn't know where I stack up against top athletes in Europe. All the competitions that I signed up for were bigger ones, and they were sanctional events at the time. All of them got canceled, and I was just stuck at home training, and I didn't know where my fitness at. And then end of 2020, basically everything was still shut down. It was, I think, December 21st, like just few days from 2021. I tore my meniscus on squat clean. Like on my weightlifting session, I had, I think they were heavy doubles, and something just popped in my knee, and I was like, oh man, the season is just about to start. The Open was scheduled for February, and I'm here. I don't know what is happening with my knee. I don't know how it's going to heal. The season is just about to start. So that's how the season started. I was recovering from the injury, and I was just ready to start the Open. I was able to break the parallel. It took a little bit longer to heal than I planned. So basically, my first squats were like the heavier squats were in quarterfinals, where we had 4 rep max front squat, and then I almost didn't make the quarterfinals. From 60 athletes in Europe, I was placed 52nd. So it was really not a good start. And after that, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have a competition for a long time before quarterfinals. Then I barely made the semifinals. And I was like, there was maybe 2 months before semifinals. I was like, I will just try to do everything that's in my power and just to see where I place at the leaderboard. I was not planning to be in top 5. Games were still not realistic goal, to be honest. I was just planning to hit every workout and just fight for every point. That was my mindset going into the semifinals. And then semifinals were online for us because of COVID. So it was a little bit, I can say it was a little bit in my favor, because all the sanctions got canceled. I didn't have a chance to compete at the big event against the names that now I'm going against online. So I hit those semifinals pretty hard online, and I placed 3rd. And actually, my goal was when they announced the workouts, my goal was just to try to be in top 10. And I thought if I can be top 10 after 2 days, with the last 2 workouts being a really good one for me, I think that maybe I can make the games. And that's where like the anxiety kicks in. Maybe I can make the games. And that's, for 5 years, I was like watching movies, watching athletes, trying to like get close to that level. I had a job at the time. For the last whole season, I was coaching for five hours a day. So I can say that I was expecting to go to the games.
Can you elaborate, kind of connect the dots between it's now, so you're saying basically going into the last day of your online semifinal, you were kind of like teetering, you were can you explain kind of that emotional like roller coaster and how, because a lot of athletes would, like, you're given those 2 options. Like I think of Caroline at Granite Games when going into the last day, in a games qualifying spot. A lot of athletes given that decision, like, hey, you're going to have to fight harder than you've had to, despite not knowing where you're at. Or you can just say like, oh, I've done pretty well, and like, I'm pretty happy with this. If I don't make it, like, no big deal. And you chose the former and said like, no, fuck this, I'm going to do that. Can you dig into that a little bit?
For me, the goal of the beginning of the weekend was to be in top 10. And then I thought if I can be in top 10, I maybe have a chance to win it. Not to win it, like to qualify. And then after the first day, it was friendly Fran, and it was a cheaper workout with dumbbells and GHDs. I think for everyone that were following online semifinals, they knew the workouts. So after those 2 events, like, none of those events are good for me, especially at the time. My thrusters were horrible. My mobility for single arm dumbbell overhead squats were, yes. And for me, that's not the workouts that I can expect that I can do really well at. But they were some GHDs and chest to bars. So I thought maybe if I can be top 10 after these 2 workouts, and then try to climb my way up the leaderboard and see what happens. And when they announced the leaderboard after first day, I was in 6th. And when I saw the leaderboard, I walked out of the house, and I took like 15 minutes to walk just to process where I am at the moment, because with like my last competition was, let's say, almost 2 years ago, and it was not that big one. and now I'm sitting in 6th place going into second day of semifinals. It was pretty shocking for me. And at that time I was like, okay, tomorrow is a snatch event with high reps at 245. And then
Luka, I got to cut you off for 1 second because there's a really important point here. I dealt with this quite a bit, getting Kenzie into the right headspace as well, because similarly, and there's a whole separate thing about Kenzie on her own, but there weren't wheelhouse workouts. A lot of pulling gymnastics, not necessarily her favorite. It's a fitness test. It's did you do your intervals all year long? Did you do your Maffetone work? Did you do these things? And you went into it with a high fitness level and a level of like, you want to know what? I do belong with these athletes. I'm going to try to break into this top 10. And that's when you learn the person at your gym that can fly on the pull-up bar or has that 1 rep max, while that, can keep you hungry and keep you chasing them. At the end of the day, your fitness level is what is going to decide how that goes for the entire weekend. And I just love that you gave yourself the opportunity to say, you want to know what? Like, I'm still going to give this everything I've got. Because a lot of people see a workout they don't like and they get in their own head, and 6th place, even though their fitness level is 6th place, their mindset is not.
Yes, for me, I have nothing to lose mentality going into second day, because sitting in 6th place, I think that from European community, nobody expected to see me at that place going up, especially after first day. And then going into second day, I switched up my mentality, to be honest, from I want to be in top 10 I switched it to this is my time to make the games, because after everything that I've been through the whole year, torn meniscus, working for 5 hours a day, while trying to make CrossFit training number 1 priority. So I switched my mentality and I tried to fuel my energy with that going into the second day. Like, this is the time to make to the games. This is time to break onto the big scene. I was waiting for a long time. And I think that 6th place after first day was a switching moment in my career, I can say.
Did that happen on that 15-minute walk, or was that 15-minute walk like, cool, 6th place, that's neat, and then I spent the rest of the evening like processing that? Did that mindset change on that 15-minute walk?
Yes, exactly. During that 15-minute walk, I told myself, okay, this is the time, and if you don't make it, like, now the goal is to make it. Before that, the goal was to try to be in top 10 and squeeze every point that I can. And after that self-talk that I gave myself, it was like, okay, this is the time to make the games.
Did you tell anyone that, or did you keep that internal?
I kept that internal. Like, still, I try to keep myself and everybody around me calm, but I put a big pressure on myself after that first day.
Can you, so I think certainly equal parts kind of the mental side, because making that mental decision, going for that 15-minute walk, that's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, or the inflection point that you made that decision. But you kind of, like, let's not dismiss everything that you did to get up to that point, like all the work that you put in that put you into the position to make that decision. So you tore your meniscus. What do you attribute, like, give us like the 1 or 2 biggest things that you did over that year that set you up for that success, for the ability to put yourself in that position to qualify despite maybe, less than ideal physical conditions?
Yes, for me, the whole year was, since I started, I was training a lot. I can't say that I started and I was doing class a day. For me, when I started, I basically immediately started working or training 2 or 3 times a day. I was always fanatic with training. So since I started, I had Lazar to push me. I could see what he's doing. He was at a little bit bigger level than I was. So for me, since I was starting, I was training a lot, and especially that semifinal prep, I dig into that really deep. Since I broke that parallel after breaking my meniscus, since I could squat, I was doing everything that I could. I think maybe I did more than I should, because more isn't always better, but before I had mentality that if I'm not training 3 times a day, something is not right. So I think that semifinal prep, I did a lot of training. I can't say that was perfect training, but I think that it was a really good preparation for me at that time. I stuck into a stuff that were really bad for me, and as I said before, I was going into semifinals with that mentality that I want to squeeze every single point. So I was attacking weaknesses a lot in that semifinal prep.
And you weren't being coached, like you were coaching yourself effectively at that point, right?
No, I had, like, I can say I had a friend/coach.
Yep.
Because we started like working together in 2018, but he had a weightlifting coach that he knew who was writing some weightlifting stuff for me. He was writing conditioning for me and some of the workouts, and I was just picking some of the workouts myself on that semifinal prep. I could see like something on Instagram, and I can or I was like writing the workouts on my own, and that's basically how that semifinal prep went.
All right. Take us into the day 2 and day 3, and then onto the games.
Yeah. So day 2 started with there was a high rep snatch workout, and I always felt that snatch is my best lift, and not that I'm really good at snatch, but compared to field, is the ones that will give me the least damage. I can say like that. Compared to the field. So my snatch at the time was 270. So it's 122.5, and 245 is 90% of that. So
which
finishing
you did for a
AMRAP
triple the other day, but we'll leave that for the
yes, exactly. So the workout was climbing ladder of snatches. It's 10 reps until you get to 245, and then the remaining time that you are doing AMRAP of snatches at 245. And going into that workout, you're looking at the guys that are in front of me. I know that most of them have a lot stronger snatch than I have, but I think going into that, I switched my mindset, and I was like, okay, I know that I can cycle my 90% better than most of the guys. And I got myself a goal to hit 12 reps at 245. And I went for singles all the way, and then I hit 11 at the end of the workout. So I was pretty happy after that. Like you can't ask for more. It's 90% of your max. You did it 11 times in 3 minutes. I think that was the perfect execution, but still that workout put me in 16th place overall on my semifinal leaderboard. And then next one was ring muscle ups, double unders, and lunges. And I was like, okay, now I will have one bad placement, and I need to make this one my good placement if I wanna keep my games expectations a while. And I hit that one pretty good. Like I burned down a little bit in last rounds. I attacked that third ring muscle ups probably a little bit harder than I should. I burned down a little, but still I placed 6th place in that one in semifinals. And we were waiting for the leaderboard, and I'm refreshing it, and it's I was in 6th place again, 2 points outside of the qualifying position. And at that time, I know that I talked to my father before the whole semifinals things happened, and I said, after they announced the workouts, I think if I can be in top 10 going into the last day, I think that I can qualify, because these first 4 workouts were not good for me. And then the last 2 workouts are something that I will write. If somebody asks me, like, what do you want to do for the workout? I will probably write the last 2 events for semifinals. And then when I saw that I'm in 6th place, I went again for a walk, and I told myself, okay, this is it. You wanted to be in top 10 going into last day. You are now in 6th place, 2 points behind top 5. So this is the perfect situation. You just need to perform tomorrow. And I did, first thing in the morning, I did Gretel, and I did it at 2 minutes, 50 seconds. And I was not really happy with that, because I tripped barbell, I think 2 times. My barbell moved a little bit. I lost a lot of time there, like trying to move the barbell into right place and making sure that I don't get no reps for tripping. So after that one, I was not happy with the score, but now I have to attack rowing, handstand walks, and legless. And for me, that was the workout where, for me, it's like now or never. And I attacked that one pretty hard. I made like a list of the paces that I think I should hold. And it was setting me up for, I think, 20 minutes, 40 seconds. And I started the workout. I felt so good. Rowing felt so good. Handstand walks felt so good. And I was going a lot faster than what we wrote on the paper. And in the end, I finished workout at 19:40. And I already knew some times from my region, and it was like a minute faster than what some other guys did. And Lazar did workout, and he was like only 10 or 15 seconds in front of me. And he was like, I was thinking he's going to win the workout overall in our region. So if I'm only 10 seconds behind him, I think I should be good to go. And with that 2 scores, I still had that Gretel score a little bit in my head. Maybe I can do better. Like maybe I thought if I can go sub 250, because seconds will matter. Basically, it's 10 rounds of 3 clean and jerks, 3 burpees. I went to gym that has a little better flooring than I have at my garage. This barbell is not bouncing that much, so that I can, as I'm dropping the barbell, I can basically go into the burpee. So that was the affiliate where I was working as a coach as well. So I went like 2 hours before the deadline, I went and redo Gretel, and I did 240. I started so hot. For me, it was like, okay, it's now or never. I did 5 rounds in a minute 10. So yes.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. Finished
at
240 overall, like at the end of the workout. And I went and I was so sure that I will make the games that I went to camera and I said, see you in Madison, guys.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. So we got a lot of lessons built into what's going on here. So one of the ones that we try to get across to athletes is, if you could go back in a time machine and be standing there while Vincent van Gogh was painting, and he painted, it takes him 10 hours to do a painting, and 2 hours in, he turns the painting around and he's really sad that it doesn't look like much yet, or he's really excited that he's just done something. So we go into these competition weekends and you don't get to pick the order of the competition. And you'll get an athlete who hits the 1 rep max snatches in first place and is positive they're going to the games, and that confidence can be good, or it can be, a little bit too much of an ego thing. But what we see happen more often is athletes get buried mentally by one event, by one single event. And if we can zoom out and look, if they weren't at the competition and in that competition brain, they would probably realize, hey, this is 1/6, 1/7 of the test, and I know it's not my wheelhouse. And there's so much to the maturity of that, and knowing as an athlete that you need to be able to go in and execute and do things, as well as you possibly can. And then, there's really just this other side to it that's like, to be the best athlete you can be, you have to have your own version of that killer instinct. Like, that has to be in you. And getting to know you over the past X amount of months, you don't carry that sort of attitude with you in a day-to-day, but it's very obvious that it's buried back beneath a layer or two, that you're going to go there. And the only reason I think that's an important lesson to some people that are listening right now is because that sort of confidence, that sort of drive, that X factor shows up differently in different athletes. There's some of them that wear it on their sleeve all the time. And then, like I said, for you, it's obvious that it's buried back there, but like in the day-to-day, you have a bit more of a lighthearted personality. So I think, again, the lesson is just that you you can have that in you, and it can be right up at the surface or somewhere else. But I just think it's really important that those, you know, those like really profound things were part of your journey, because I'm sure it taught you a lot. And, you know, one of the main things that we try to do on this podcast is to educate and inspire. And I think you're doing both simultaneously.
I got to experience a little bit of that earlier. I reposted the Misfit leaderboard for the guys and girls, and he said, "Look, you are kind of fit." And then I said, "You know, congratulations on taking the top spot." And he's like, "Yeah, I wish there was more spots between me and second place." Like, he wants to separate himself even on the Misfit leaderboard further apart. He wants to further leave those people in the dust, because again, it does take that sort of mental approach and the I'm not satisfied. I want to keep going, and I want to keep digging deeper and deeper so I can put the people further and further behind me. That is clear here. I mean, to go into a workout and be like, you know, this isn't a good one for me, but I'm going to fuck up the next one. That's not an attitude a lot of athletes have. As soon as they get dealt that one, you know, that one curveball, weekend's over. I'll see you next year. Next year's, you know, what it was, regionals back, and now it's semifinals.
Yeah. For me, I think that everybody needs to see what works for them. And I was competing a lot since I started. I think that as I started training CrossFit a little bit more serious, I started competing, and I was traveling around Europe a lot, and I was always traveling alone. Like, I didn't have, in the beginning, I didn't have a coach that can go with me at the competitions. And most of the times those competitions and those travels were really expensive for me to bring somebody else as well. So most of the time, not most of the time, all of my competitions before I was traveling alone. And then I could see, like, when you are alone, you have a lot of self-talk. And at that time, I was like searching for what is working well for me and what is not. Like, am I type of the guy that is going to put the headphones and zoom everything out? Or am I type of the guy that will joke around and you know, not be as that focused on the competition? So I was doing both, and I see now, when I'm like a little bit more serious and when I'm going to a little bit bigger competitions, that I can be both of those guys. I can be a guy that is going to put headphones in their head and zoom out everything around him, or I can be a guy that's joking around with competitors in warm-up area, and I just juggle around those two with how the workouts are going. I can find myself in the most stressful situations, being the most calm and like joking around, trying to get my head out of that like pressure situation. I had that at German Throwdown second to last event was handstand walk ramp, which was that bad for me in the competitions before. And we were working a lot. We had, I think, the whole cycle. I'm not sure which phase it's going to. Was it phase 2?
I believe phase 2 was when we did the progression.
Once a week.
Yeah.
Yes, we did, like, it was once a week, a ramp practice basically.
Yep.
So I knew that I did the work, and I was like, when you are going, it was only one trip down the ramp. You do ring muscle ups and one trip back up the ramp. And at that time, I knew that no matter how good are you at the ramp or how many times you practice, everybody can trip. Like, you saw the best of the best trip on the games, on the handstand walk ramp, like one stumble and you will not place your hand right and you will fall. And at that time I was like, okay, I don't want to think about this. I don't want to think about this event at all. It was just like, I need to warm up. I made myself a goal that I need to do a ramp once in the warm-up area, and that's it. Like, I opened my shoulders perfectly. I warm up my core and everything. And I was just joking around. I was just like finding ways to not be into that event, because if you are thinking so much about that you can trip, you're probably going to trip. And if there is a workout where you need to dig in, like it was, first one was 20-minute AMRAP of like bike, sandbag cleans, sandbag over box. And that's the one where you need to prepare yourself to dig deep into that one, to be in that, like, to make that headspace right for that event. So I think that everybody can find what's working for them in which situations.
So we just spent, we coming off a training camp weekend, and one of the things that we tried to do was through Friday and Saturday prepare athletes and sort of plant some seeds to talk about their athlete IQ Sunday morning, which was sort of like the culmination of our lectures. And the big thing with developing your perspective as an athlete is guessing what the right thing is, your mindset, preparing for this event versus that event, and then checking to see how it works. And then you refine your perspective, but then you guess again and you check to see if you were right, and you refine your perspective, and you continue to do that over and over. We have there's a lot of athletes out there who in those moments might be looking for very specific instructions and zone out to the point where they aren't developing their perspective. So when you're talking about, okay, I wasn't sure if I was the headphones guy or the person doing that, that didn't stop you from trying to figure out what that was. And when you say something like that, that can give the listeners an opportunity and almost permission to be like, okay, you're going to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. Like there's going to be moments where I am going to potentially guess wrong about what headspace I'm trying to put myself in. Or I brought my friend to the back, or my significant other, or my coach. Like what are the things that do work for me? And you are so committed to figuring out what's right that you are willing to sort of put yourself out there and guess to see what that is. And that's something that's, I think, a massive part of the athlete IQ.
Yeah.
All right. CrossFit Games. Now, definitely take us through how you got to the CrossFit Games, because that was sort of the first part, right? With everything going on with COVID. All right, Misfits, just a quick break to shout out our show sponsors and save you a little bit of dough on our favorite products. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Proper Fuel. Proper Fuel has pre-workout and post-workout in every single ingredient, and the amount of each ingredient is based on peer-reviewed research. It tastes really good as well. We've got your stim and non-stim versions of the pre-workout, just in case you're either, need that juice in the morning, or don't want that juice afternoon, so you can actually sleep at night. Exciting news surrounding Proper Fuel. If you head to properfuel.co/join the pack, you can apply to be an ambassador. We are at our 2-year anniversary of starting this company, and we are now taking on brand ambassadors and hopefully working them up towards sponsorship. So please head to properfuel.co/join the pack. And if you just want some awesome products, properfuel.co, use the code word Misfit.
We're also brought to you by Sharpen the Axe. You can head to sharpentheaxeco.com. Use the code word Keala, Keala, to save 10% and donate 10% to an awesome foundation. We recently just dropped the Coach's Collection, which includes the Coach's Pant. Has a lot of flexibility right there to get it up there.
Damn,
We've got 5 or 6 colors, Drew? 6 colors? 6 different colors. Go with basically any coaching outfit that may include Misfit Gym Portland swag. One of the things that we've heard from the community is that, like, hey, you guys drop a bunch of awesome gear, but how can we buy some of your like hometown home gear, Misfit Gym Portland swag? So we got hoodies, we got long sleeves, we got t-shirts and tanks. And again, I guess it'll pair really nicely with the Coach's Collection pant. There's also some exciting stuff coming down the pike here with semifinals coming up. I'm not going to tease what they are, but you're going to want to head to sharpentheaxeco.com. Use the code word Keala, Keala, to save some dough and donate some dough to a great foundation.
And finally, we are brought to you by ourselves. If you have listened to the first half of this podcast and are about ready to run your head through a brick wall like I am, I think I'm going to go subscribe to the complete tier that I get for free anyway. But you can head to misfitathletics.com or the SugarWOD marketplace to at least get a free 2-week trial and then continue to run your head through a wall. Listening to Luka talk about how he's kind of progressed from taking some of the programming, some of the old Misfit WODs, all the way up through that remote coaching kind of progression. You can do any of that and all in between, whether it's the Plus Pro Complete tier, or maybe you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I'm ready to take that next step and try to get on that remote coaching bandwagon to kind of up my game a little bit. Again, Misfit Athletics, and the SugarWOD marketplace. And also don't forget, we've got that affiliate programming at teammisfit.com as well as the SugarWOD marketplace. Finally, if you want to converse with Luka, you can tell he's about as personable as you can get. head to discord.gg/Misfit Athletics. Join the Misfit community, post scores, talk a little bit of trash. We'll see you out there. All right, back to the episode.
So after I made the games, for me it was still unreal, to be honest. I didn't have feeling like I made the games. Like, to be honest, at that time I was like, okay, we were celebrating that night. Like, my whole family was there. We were at the home, and it was like, I made the games, but I still don't feel like it. I didn't have my podium at regional celebration. I wasn't in any other country. I was at my home. So I didn't compete for last 2 years. And now I have certificates that says you are going to the games. So it was a little bit strange, because I can say that most of the guys, when they made their first games, it was like regionals. It was like Sunday night, crazy last event, announcer saying your name, that you're going to the games. And for me, it was refreshing leaderboard in my living room. And I was like, okay, I'm going to the games.
You pop any champagne? Did you do any in your living room? You didn't pop champagne in your living room?
No, it was just a lot of hugging and screaming by the family and everything, So next morning I wake up and I was like, okay, what now? We have a pretty hard process here to get US visa, because we are not in European Union. So it's a little bit harder to apply for visa. It's a little bit harder to get visa. But once you get it, you will always be allowed to travel to United States, basically. So like that first application for United States visa is something that's really matter here in Serbia. So after we both qualified, Lazar and me, we went into that process, and we find out that US embassy is not working in Serbia at the moment because of COVID. So there's no dates when you can apply for visa. Actually, you can send your application via website, and then you can ask for how it's called, like express.
Yeah, to expedite. Yeah.
Yeah, you can expedite your visa by saying why you need to go to United States immediately. And we got our invitation letter by CrossFit. We got all the papers in line. We sent that to US Embassy, and they said, your expedition is canceled. Like, not canceled, it's like it's declined, because your case is not that important for like United States, so that we can give you the date to apply. And at that time, I was like, okay, this is exactly what I expected. Like, I make my games online, and I'm now not able to travel. I was so pissed at the moment. I didn't know what to do. And then, like, Serbian CrossFit community started posting at Instagram, like, grantem visa. There was like Serbian media actually involved. Like, there was some newspaper sharing us that we qualified and that the visa should be granted and stuff like that. And then actually Prime Minister of Serbia contacted Ambassador of United States, and then both Lazar and me had meeting with Ambassador of United States, and they granted us visa, because they said that they now realized that it's
Holy shit.
both
CrossFit community does not mess around.
Wow,
Yeah.
fucking A.
Yes, exactly. So they said that they now realize that it's big interest of Serbia for both of us to be at the CrossFit Games, because it's such a huge international event.
Fuck yeah.
So they accepted like our visa, and we got 10-year visa, and that was crazy. Yeah. And then we went to United States, and then CrossFit Games started.
Tell me about your first games experience.
So we are arriving at Madison, and I'm like, okay, I didn't compete for last 2 years. I made my games in garage, and now I'm in Madison. Like, it's all felt so surreal, and I think that it wasn't benefiting me that I made the games that way, to be honest, because I didn't have chance to go against those athletes. For example, some athletes that made the games, they already had chance to compete in Dubai. They already had a chance to compete at Wodapalooza. So and events like that. So you know who you are competing against. You already been there a few times on big events. And for me, it wasn't the case. My first big competition was CrossFit Games. I went there and like it all felt surreal for me. And I think that I wasn't ready for it at that moment because I didn't have a good chance to prepare mentally myself for a spectacle that is CrossFit Games. So basically my first impressions were, we went for the briefing, and then we went on the athlete bus to try and see where the kayaks and swimming event is going to be. And I'm sitting on the bus next to Scott Panchik, and he's making all the jokes, and I look around me and it's like same as I was watching in the movie for 5 years now. And I was like, man, what the hell is happening? And those are the athletes that I was watching like motivational videos for 5 years. And when I started CrossFit, I saw like Fikowski and Wellner making the podium. And now I'm now with them on the bus. I was like 22 years old at the moment. And I was like, I wasn't ready for it, to be honest.
So
mentally,
yeah. So you show up and it's a bit of a whirlwind just with everything that's, I mean, honestly, not only did you show up with your own personal set of circumstances and how you got there, but it was still, your first trip, over here to go to Madison for the CrossFit Games. It's a weird time in the whole world. So not only,
yes.
COVID protocols and all these different things and athletes on different buses, and some people got to wear masks and some people don't. How did it feel once you got started and once you got to do what you do?
Yes, for me, it was, I know that when the competition starts, I'm going to zoom out everything that I'm thinking about at the moment. So I couldn't wait just for competitions to start. And for me, to be honest, I can say like lucky thing for me was that first event wasn't at the North Park or wasn't at the Coliseum. It was like in the lake, 80 athletes. There wasn't much audience behind. So for me, that first kickoff of the games was something that I wasn't so surprised by because there was no huge crowd. It wasn't in Coliseum or stuff like that. So I can say that first event was a little bit easier than the next ones. Once we started, it was just crazy. Like a lake start with 80 athletes in the water. I think that somebody who didn't felt that on their own skin don't know how crazy that can be. Like athletes kicking each other all over the lake,
yep.
Fighting for the positions on a 1 hour event. So for me, I started really good. I finished swim in 15th place, which was for me perfect because I was trying to work on my swim a lot in the games prep. But then when I went into kayak, I was like, I didn't know what to do with my hands, and athletes were passing me one by one, and I finished, I think it was 31st or 32nd, and I wasn't really happy with that. But then next two events that were coming were the ones that I'm pretty good at. So I was like, I couldn't wait for next two to start. And then when we started warming up, it was the pig flips, ring muscle ups, sleds. And I know that we bought like huge tire that was weighing like 250 kilos, which is 535 in pounds. So in the prep, I saw that I'm really good at flipping the tire. So I knew that I'm going to be pretty good at flipping the pig. And then when the workout started for me, it wasn't pig or ring muscle up, it was actually the sled. And for most athletes, that part of the event was just irrelevant. It was just like sprint with the sled. And for me, I was like last of the pack on the sled. I picked up my pace. I was almost like the fastest ones to complete the pig and ring muscle ups. And I was in the line next to Justin. So he was in front of me by a lot. And then I picked up the pace on him on muscle ups, and he had two pig flips in front of me as we were coming back. And with 5 pigs, like I did 5 pig flips, Will he did 2. So I was in the lead by 1, and I'm almost the first one to the sled, and I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm going to have my first heat win at the games or event win, and then I pick up the sled, and I was basically the last one. I finished like the 5 or 6 guy passed me. Then on the finish line, I had a rookie mistake of letting sled go before the judge said that I can't put it down. So I had to go back and pick it up again. Lost there like 3 to 4 spots, and I was like, okay, this didn't go well. And so it didn't start really well. And then next one was 500 yards, meters for time. And I'm like, okay, this event needs to go my way. I went all out from the beginning. I won my heat, and I was pretty sure that I'm going to win the event because I was like second to last heat to go, and my time was the time to beat. And in my head, I was in heat with Roy Gamboa, the guy that won sprint event in 2016. I was in heat with, I think it was Will Morad, it was Adrian Wundweiler, and I'm like, if I'm, and it was Jason Hopper, Noah Olsen, and Travis Mayer, I think. And I'm like, if I'm going to win, if I'm going to win this heat with these guys, I'm winning the event for sure. And I think that's one more mistake that I made, because I think that I could push even more. I paced it a little bit, having in my head that, okay, if I beat, for me, it was like I knew that Roy Gamboa won sprint in 2016. And I was like, if I'm going to beat him on this event, I'm winning the event for sure. That's what I had in my head. And then I won the event, but in the end, it was like a 6th place, and it was all by 1 second.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so you are at the CrossFit Games. Now you are not thinking about winning the heat. You just need to push yourself to absolute limit. And that's how you win the event.
You win or you learn.
And I
right?
win I won my heat, but I placed 6th. And last one of first day was my nightmare. It was wall walks and thrusters. Like at that time, now I think I'm one of the best in the world. Like maybe it sounds stupid, but on the wall walks, but we did so many wall walks
yes, we did.
We're
not stopping.
And it showed on 22.1 as well. So it was wall walks and thrusters, and I was like, okay, this is going to be disaster. And I was actually supposed to be in heat in the last heat, because I was placed 18th, and it was supposed to be 20 heats, like heats of 20.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for my heat to start, and they're like basically calling my name, and I had like 5 or 10 minutes to warm up, because they switched the heats because 2 guys were not there. So it was 2 heats of it was 1 heat of 17 and 1 heat of 8. I'm not sure what they did there, but I know that I went into the workout as a leader of first heat. And so now we are in that famous Colosseum. I don't know what to expect, And as we are walking, basically we were lined up. I was at the back of the row. In front of me was Scott Penske. In front of me was Travis Mayer. I was like watching the guys for 5 years, and we are walking, and they're like moving the curtain for every single athlete. And I'm like last one to go, and they moved the curtain, and I went in the Colosseum for the first time, and I basically stopped and looked around like, what is happening?
I love that. And that's great.
Yeah. And so I think that just because I didn't have that big competition experience before, I think that I didn't went into the CrossFit Games with the right mindset. And then it showed in those workouts where like when we went into Colosseum, I think every workout after that was basically a disaster for me. And not only because of my mindset, some of that was just I wasn't ready enough for it and I wasn't fit enough. But I think that going into this year, I am going to completely change mindset.
So what about your experience last year and at the games? Because again, we said it at camp. I say it to athletes a lot. When in doubt, zoom out. So if you zoom out on 2021, that was a pretty great year for you. So
yes, like
what about 2021 made you want to make a big change and reach out and get coaching?
So for me, when I went to the games and after everything, like everybody was, why are you so, like after the games, I wasn't in right headspace, to be honest. I was pissed. Like my goal now, looking at beginning of professional CrossFit training or competing for me, was never to make the CrossFit Games. And not many athletes say that openly. When I started the training, I said I want to win the CrossFit Games. I don't want to participate. And it's hard thing to say, because the athletes that are going to the games know how hard that is and what actually you need to do. You can't just say I want to win the games. You need to do a lot of things right. You need to zoom out everything else that needs to be your whole life. And when I started, I was like, that's my goal. And when I went to the games, for me, it was just one more thing like checked off the list. Made your first games, and then next thing was win the CrossFit Games, place on podium, and then win the CrossFit Games. That's were my goals. And after that was okay. Even though some people can say it was a perfect year for me, I can say that it wasn't successful. And for me, I was always setting like big goals. Maybe some people are not setting high goals because they are scared to be disappointed, I can say. But for me, it was always like, I'm always shooting for the stars. And if I miss, I'm going to be on the moon. So
I like that.
It's a good perspective.
Yeah. So that's after the games, I was like, okay, now I need to sit and to decide what are my next steps. And after that, I was like, okay, I was always following my gut. And I knew that sometimes following your gut can be dangerous, but for me, it worked really well. And I was like, okay, I want to reach out to you guys and see, like I had the programs in front of me, like which ones I should follow. And I was like, I want to reach out to you guys and see if you want to have me on board, because I just had feeling. I don't know, to be honest. I wanted to make a big change. I wanted to be even more serious with my training, to get even more like coaching somebody that I can believe and somebody that I will believe, because I was basically training alone for a long time. And that's not right way to develop a coachable athlete, right? Because I was writing my own workouts. It was working well for me. So I was like, if I'm going to be coached, let's see if these guys are going to have me on board, because I think that I will believe what they say.
So how's it going so far?
Because I was already following the plan. It was working pretty well for me before I switched.
So we are, my math is correct,
we started August 16th.
So 5-6 months roughly. That's where we're at right now.
Yes.
How do you feel about the progress that you've made in the last 5 or 6 months?
Oh man, as I'm sending you every day, like I'm feeling as a completely different athlete. And I think it's the one side of writing like your own workouts and stuff is you are putting aside a little bit the things that you are not good at, because that's your first, like it's a subconscious mind. When you go to the table, you're probably going to write something that you're good at. So first thing when we started was a little bit eye-opening for me. Was there was so many things that I'm horrible at, and I was getting crashed by simple workouts, and they were combinations that I never did before. Like I can't give you perfect examples, but I don't know, like front squats and handstand push-ups. I would never put those things together in the workout in my life, because I think it's two of my worst movements. And I had that, like, I think it was 3 days ago, and it was like, man, it's still horrible, but
you sent me that message. You were like, I had this one circled. So the way that the open programming works is we have all of the programming written, but then when the workout gets announced, we'll make changes to the following, 1 to 5 days just to make sure that everything is still balanced. And Luka had already circled a workout. And when the workout's announced, typically a message that I get from one of my athletes is, we're going to break this up this way, or go there. And Luka's first thing he said immediately was, please don't change my front squat, handstand, push-up workout. And again, that's what
you want from an athlete. It's really here.
It's important. You were excited about what you consider the furthest from your wheelhouse combination.
And to be honest, it's also, as we are moving, that is building. First, when we started, we had the conversation. I think it was a month after I started Misfit, and we were talking about some of my scores on some of workouts that I'm doing, and some of, like, I can say effort on some workouts. And for me, it was like, there was some stuff that I specifically didn't like or didn't want to do before, like that bike sprints. I will give that bike sprints as an example. Yeah. I never did that before. Like, I never in my life did 10-second full effort on a solo bike for a few times. For me, it was like, it's much better to do 20-minute AMRAP than 10-second sprint.
Right.
And that's how I trained for last, how many years, 4 or 5. And now when I made a change, and now when I'm not the one that's choosing what I'm going to do, at the beginning, it was really hard. Like, I see the workout and I think, this 5 sets of 10-second sprint on a solo bike is, I don't think that's what I need. Maybe I should do something else. But then I was like, following what I said to myself after the games, like, I need to stuck my head into something more serious. I need to listen. And I believe, I said that I'm going to choose someone that I believe in their programming. And I was like, okay, I started doing it like regularly, but still I didn't have that switch to, I didn't have that switch to go there.
I knew your fitness level. I knew your size, and I knew those weren't your scores. I knew there was another layer you were going to be able to uncover.
And what completely changed my mindset, considering weakness workouts, was we had a conversation, and you said you had to go there once in a while, and I thought about it like. We were talking especially about those bike sprints, and you're saying, you said that you're seeing guys that are not fit as I am, that are outperforming me on some sprint events or like not events, on sprint workouts. Yeah. And you said you have to go there once in a while. It's once a week. You have to send that, like, and for me, it was like, I'm already training a lot less than I was before, because for me it was more is better. And now I'm training a lot less. And I was, after that, what you said, I was like, okay, if you have that extra energy, try to put that into intensity. And that's, I think, when magic happened for me in the last 5 months.
I got a question for you. How'd you get so damn mature? Seriously, like the amount of maturity that you've been demonstrating in this podcast, I'm like blown away. I've been over here like quiet the entire time, because every time you name drop a fact or demonstrate your athlete IQ, I'm just like, where the fuck did he learn all of this? And where does that come from? Because I want so many other athletes to realize how much information you're providing us with this podcast is kind of telling your story. Like, how many different facets of what an athlete needs to be good at or understand or know about themselves, and being willing to say, you know what, I fucking hate handstand push-ups and front squats together, but I know I need that medicine if I'm going to get better, or I keep losing to people on bike sprint workouts and I'm way fitter than them. What the hell is going on? Like, where do you think that came from, that maturity to be like, you know what, I just need to keep doing the things that I need to do?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't have the answer.
Yeah, and the funny thing, Sherb, is it goes deeper than where we're scratching the surface right now. The first thing that comes to mind for me is when you and I were talking while you were in competition. this fall and this winter, you were, and this is something that we really try to get across, because it's in most athletes and most high level athletes, it's just already there. You knew, you were like, I remember this combination of movements from 2 months ago, 3 months ago. You already had me do this. I've already done it. You remembered the weights, you remembered the rep schemes. And when you care enough to be a student of the game and your athlete IQ brings in all of these other experiences, then you can use the stuff that you've actually worked on. And the ability, again, to just call on those other experiences. And that's why we are not letting go of variance as our guiding principle in programming anytime soon, because when you put yourself through that many experiences and you know what this combination feels like when it's low rep, high rep, medium rep, when we're trying to improve your gas tank or your transition game, or, probably trying to screw everything up with things like assault bike, front squat, handstand, push up, like there's a reason for all of those things happening. So sure, just so you know that it extends a little bit. It extends a little bit further than that.
I mean, the lessons he's sharing with our listeners on this podcast. I mean, the amount of data that you have, even knowing who won the sprint event in 2016, that type of information is so important.
Yes, for me it was, as you said, I was always student of the game. I always, when I'm not training, I was watching CrossFit, to be honest. And when I wasn't on the level of competing seriously, I couldn't wait for games to start. I think Lazar is always joking about that, but that's true. I think that I know every single event since 2015 games. So every single event that was at the games, I think that if you give me a piece of paper, I can write it by the year. And it's not something that I didn't force myself into it. I just love that. And I don't know why and how that happened. It was just progressing. And then when I started competing a little bit more serious, I put that focus into my training. And I found, and then I can say it the hashtag that we have, everything on purpose, is something that I find myself, when I read that, I was like, this is me. Everything that I did since I started, I think I was thinking that way, and not only in training. And now when I'm training, I'm okay, this is the worst possible combination for me. I'm going to feel so bad. When I put my score into group, probably everybody's going to beat me. But that is something that I need. And if I want to develop into athlete that I want to be, I need to dig deep into this combination, even though it's so bad for me. And that's how I moved since I started program, and that's why I see such a huge benefits from it.
So while variance is our guiding principle within programming, Misfit Athletics' guiding principle is community. And I think it's important to ask you how you've put yourself into being part of the Misfit Athletics community, so that people that are listening, you're in Serbia, and yes. I don't have the analytics on Misfit Athletics data in Serbia, but I can't imagine it's
getting bigger.
It's certainly higher than it was before. But how have you been able to be part of this community while training essentially by yourself in Serbia?
So we have that, as I said, we have that group, and since we are on Discord,
that might have been off air. That might have been before we hit record. So let us know. Let us know about your text.
So we have that crew. I know Halli Holgersson for some time now. We competed against each other a few times. We are sharing our scores for a few years basically now when we are doing the open or quarterfinals or semifinals. So I know him for some time now. And then he introduced me into Austin, into George and Sam. So we have our own little group on Instagram that started basically since I joined the Misfit Athletics. And we were sharing scores there. And At first it was it was all nice and polite, and now it's trash talking all over the place, depending on which workout is going to be. Like if it's some rowing workouts, they're staying quiet for some times. Like there are no scores in the group.
Suspect.
But if it's thrusters and pull-ups, everybody's asking me out. Like, am I scared? Like, as you saw on that live that you guys did on 22.3, like Kali's calling me out.
He was waiting for that workout to get announced.
Yeah. But then when we see now 5K row on quarterfinals, there will be no him in sight to send me a message.
Oh, I love that. In terms of the community at large, obviously there's the Discord group now that anybody that's listening to this podcast can join and chat with Luka and see his scores and everything.
And that's what I just wanted to say now. And then after we had that group for a while, but now we switched a little bit to Discord. We are still sharing some, like if we are talking about how everybody's feeling and what are we expecting for the quarterfinals and stuff. But we switched our like scores posting and stuff a lot to Discord now, since it's 1 month now, I think, right?
Yeah.
Since we all joined the Discord group. And I think it's pretty good, because I think that also athletes that are, I can say, not on our level, that few of us are on the program, can still see that we are doing, like, some of the stuff is a lot, like it's same. And they can see that we are also struggling with that 10 seconds effort, even though we are at the games or at the semifinals. And I think it's pretty, like, you can see the support and you can see how good the community is.
Absolutely. And you can head to discord.gg/Misfit Athletics to join the group. Talk to me about, so this is where the interview takes a little bit of a turn, another learning experience. Tell me about how you feel about the 2022 Open.
So for me, this Open was a little bit, every workout I had to decide, do I let my ego take the side and make me redo the workout, or try to improve score, or should I focus on what is coming? And I think that I had the conversation with you. Basically, every single score that I posted was, am I going all out this Open and redoing the workouts and peaking for the Open just to see my name up on the leaderboard? Or am I taking that pride a little bit aside and focusing on what is coming? So that's basically the thoughts that I have in my mind during the Open. Even though Open went pretty good, I still think it was, like, first event went really well. I think it was 15th place in the world. And starting like that, I thought maybe I should redo the workout to try to get an overall win in the event, because I thought that I could, because I didn't know what to expect. Every single event that I did, I sent you a message. I don't know what to expect, because I think, and I feel like I'm 100% different athlete.
It's like when they put the new engine in the F1 car and they take off, and it's just not exactly what they remembered.
Exactly. For me, it's like every single event or the workout that I'm doing, I'm learning something new about myself, because I had some specific weaknesses. I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I'm not considering it done. It's not even close to where I want to be, but I really feel like I made a really big improvements this year. And every single event, every single Open, 22.1, 22.2, and 22.3 was a little bit learning experience for me to see where should I push and how should I pace and where I'm good at and stuff like that. And I think that if I redo every event, the outcome will be completely different, but that wasn't the goal this year. And I think that you helped me really well to focus on what's important in my goal.
And something that I think people could get some insight on is just that this week right now, you aren't coming off of a time of high volume necessarily during the open. We would consider it for us sort of medium volume, normal volume. And even though you didn't have that, sort of big bout of large volume like you normally would going into a competition, we are now this week into what for you specifically is like very low volume. And to me, exactly. That is our next iteration. That is our next step in developing that athlete IQ. If I look at if I look at my sheet and I see essentially, we've got a lift, we might have some intervals, you're doing your maffetone stuff, but there might be one thing in there where you really feel like you can strategize for it and share your scores, with these other people, and your ability to refine all of this new capacity that you have and put it into a single workout in a vacuum, I think is what's going to be that next thing that really moves the needle for you and takes you from, I've developed all this stuff in training, but now I have to figure out exactly how to use it. So I'm sort of interested to hear, normally I would just be asking you this question in WhatsApp, but I'm interested to hear what your insight is. What's it like for you this week to hone in on that one specific thing instead of trying to work on everything at once?
Yes, for me, it's if I can't scroll my SugarWOD app when I go in today, I'm confused. Like, what is happening? When I open my sheet, if I can't scroll it, I'm like, did she didn't ask? Yeah, like, what's happening? And now I learned to do that now in these 5 months, to focus on a single piece.
Yeah.
Because since I was training alone, as I said, I always had that. I was training all day, and then when I have extra energy, I will do just another workout. And now when I have the extra energy, I just focus on the warm-ups a little bit more, on the cool downs a little bit more, on actually bringing that intensity to the workout. Because sometimes I think that it's the less that I trained for a long time now. Like when I go and I just do one session a day, but I think that all that extra energy that I have, I put it in that session, and then everything else I put in my recovery. So I think this week I'm also focusing a lot more on stretching, on doing sauna and cold shower intervals, because I'm really into that stuff, and really just getting myself ready, not only physically, but mentally for that quarterfinals. Because when season starts, I think as you need to be physically ready for sure, but it's really mentally challenging, especially this online part of the season.
Yeah, and,
so
and one luxury for me on the coaching side is I'm always happy when one of my athletes lets me know that they're working with Mike from M2, because I know that they're actually going to, first of all, eat enough food, and then I know I've got backup on the people who aren't thinking about these things outside of the gym and thinking about, when to compete, how often to compete, how much volume you need, all that stuff. And I know that we had a few moments where I don't have like a direct line of communication with Mike, but a lot of my athletes do. So whenever Mike like sort of we piggyback on each other in terms of Luka, maybe we need to think about not doing this competition or whatever. I say, hey, Caroline, can you let Mike know I said thanks for helping me convince Luka not to do this competition?
Yeah. So it's also one big switch and one area of focus that I added to my training as well, because last year as I said, I was coaching for 5 hours a day and training 3 times a day. So you can calculate how many time a day I had to eat.
Yeah.
There was none. I was just in the gym, living on the mac and cheese that was right next to the gym. So I thought that if I train 3 times a day, I will be the best no matter what I do.
Right.
And now that I have a lot more time to focus on all of these areas, I see how many of those I was lacking before.
Is there a mac and cheese store next to your gym? Just asking. That's based on what you just said.
Yes.
What is the address of where your gym is? I'm looking to go on a survey vacation real quick.
Yeah, so that's basically how I did what I did last season. So I think that it's one more big switch that I made this year.
Gentlemen, got anything else?
Maybe just like, I don't want to take your, I don't know if you have a final question, but I would just ask, maybe give the listener someone who's either kind of just starting that competitive journey, thinking back to your, like how you got started, or maybe they are somebody who's on the cusp of, you know, maybe they're a semifinals athlete debating whether or not to put that goal out there of going to the games or something like that. So, but give the listener a piece of advice, because I agree with Sherb. You're probably one of the most mature athletes I've ever listened to. And I kind of just like sat back and enjoyed listening, because there's just about there's a little nugget of everything that we like to talk about. It's just like, yep, we pulled that, like, oh, data collection. He knows he was within 1 minute of his estimated time in a 20-minute workout in the semifinal.
Hunter had to cover his lap when you said that. Yeah,
just yeah. It's pretty cool. So give the listener like a nugget for them. If they somehow missed the 700,000 that were in the podcast, what do you say to that listener who's trying to be on that competitive journey?
For me, it was always like, what do you really want? Like, what is your goal? What is that will make you happy at the end of the day? Because I think that we are setting, not we here, but we as a society are setting the goals that will maybe please people around us, but not ourselves. So I think that set the goals that will actually make you happy and work towards them. Like, see if decisions that you make during the day, are they bringing you closer to your goal, or are bringing you back from your goal, and try to stick with the stuff that will make your goal a reality. And then in the end, if you do everything that is in your hands to get closer to your goal, I think that no matter if you achieve it or not, you will be happy with yourself for sure.
Anything else, Sherb?
I don't think I have anything to add. I'm just blown away by the maturity that you spoke with today, and the fact that you are leading from the front. I think any misfit who has any sort of competitive aspirations, or even just has goals that maybe are outside of the CrossFit realm, could listen to the things that you hold important, the things that you talk about, can extend past the bubble that is competitive CrossFit into any other endeavor. And to again, I'm saying to me a million times, it's mind blowing to hear you speak with maturity. And I really am excited for everyone to kind of get a chance to listen to this podcast, because like Hunter said, I didn't really say too much during, because I was just so fascinated with what you had to say about your journey. So thank you for being on.
I think I do want to clarify just a little bit on what you said, because you started, I think I knew what you meant. You started off with, hey, set your goal and establish something that's going to make you happy. And I think that you're right and wrong in that, the sense that we as a society, a lot of, and we were kind of talking about it, like the generation, like the Gen Z is very much like, do what makes you happy. And in a lot of ways, I think people misinterpret being happy for doing something that's fulfilling.
Exactly. Yeah. That's yes,
fulfilling.
Exactly.
And I think you ended with that. That might've been what you actually meant. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it was because being happy in the moment will maybe not bring you close to your goal. That's the main thing. Because I will be happy now if this morning I just sat down in my living room and watched Office the whole day. Yeah,
I would be happy at the moment, but then in the end, that wouldn't bring me closer to my goal. So I think that end goal is what we should strive for.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, just to wrap up the podcast, at this point in my coaching career, I am screening athletes to take on more based on their attitude and the way that they carry themselves and the way that they speak. And that's what struck me in our conversation at first. And, sitting in my seat, it's easy to, I think it's easy for someone in my position to try to toot their own horn, but I do ask a lot of athletes. I do ask a lot of them from the physical standpoint, the mental standpoint, the athlete IQ standpoint. And I just want to say it's been an absolute blast working with you so far. And I think I speak for everybody in this room and the community at large that you're definitely an excellent addition to the community.
Thank you so much. It's so good to hear that.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Luka Djukic.
Juice Kitchen.
Damn it, Sherb.
All right, ladies and gents, that was another episode of the Misfit podcast. If I do say so myself, that was a pretty damn good episode. It was great to finally have Luka on the show. And, I've said this on Instagram before and will continue to say it, but there's something pretty special about the combination of effort and enthusiasm. We find that a lot of athletes have the right headspace to go in and get shit done. But sometimes maybe they get bogged down too much in that mentality and forget to have a little bit of fun with it, forget to smile every once in a while. So to get somebody on the podcast that embodies both sides of that spectrum, I think is a really great lesson for all of us, whether we're coaches, athletes, or just people in life. It's pretty cool to see somebody that can dig in and be gritty and then also laugh and joke as much as he just did. Thank you to our show sponsors, properfuel.co. Use the code word Misfit if you would like to apply to be an ambassador. It's properfuel.co/join the pack. We're also brought to you by Sharpen the Axe. You can head to sharpentheaxeco.com. Use the code word Keala, Keala. You save 10%. We donate 10% to the Keala Foundation. And last but not least, if you want to follow the programming that Luka follows, misfitathletics.com or the SugarWOD Marketplace. And if you want to follow the programming that Hunter V. Sherb follows, and I try to, you can head to teammisfit.com or the SugarWOD Marketplace to check out our affiliate programming. See you next week.